restricted to the place of business alone. It can be an experience in so many other places that you and I will find ourselves. So that's why you cannot just limit this to the place of business alone. It's something that we can apply in our life and every other experience that we go through. Okay. Well, unfortunately the YouTube froze, but it has created a new stream, so I hope you are still connected with me. So secondly, it says entrepreneurship is really more of a liberal art skills. Okay. Then the third one says C soft skill is a practice backed by research. It is backed by research. It's not just a gainsaying. It's not just a wishful thinking. It is supported by research. C soft skill works whether you have abundant resources backing or not. So it's not something that happens only when you have unlimited resources. It's something that happens because you plan and you work the principles. C soft skill shows there is no such thing as an entrepreneur psychological group. So everybody and all of us can actually partake of the teachings from this book, C soft skill. The sixth one says C soft skill also shows entrepreneurs don't need to come from the right university or be trained by the right people. So it's not so much about that. Remember what I said at the start, that it's a learnable skill. You can acquire the skill. The last point says successful entrepreneurs don't invent everything from the scratch. Hello? Successful entrepreneurs don't invent everything from the scratch. I told us about innovation. It is still valid. You can take advantage of innovation if you cannot invent anything from the scratch. All right, so looking deeply into the details now. C, which is about finding and validating an unmet need. I'll read directly from the author now. He says, which was something that he said earlier on as well, that most people start with top-down research, finding out how big an existing market or niche is, and then targeting it. Suddenly, targeting it. Successful entrepreneurs do the bottom-up research instead. They observe and listen to customers and observe and others in the supply chain and identify a problem worth solving. They look for unmet, strong, and enduring needs. That is what successful entrepreneurs, successful people, that's what they do. They try to meet the need that others are probably running away from. And Albert Einstein says, if I had an hour to solve a problem and my life depended on the solution, I would spend the first 55 minutes determining the proper questions to ask. For once I know the proper question, I could solve the problem in less than 5 minutes. Yeah, that sounds like a tall order, but it's a reality. I know it is not literal, but the principle that, of course, I want to believe a lot of us will know who Albert Einstein is. So it's not a nobody that you say, oh, what's he talking about? Or he doesn't know what he's talking about. He definitely knows what he's talking about. But the principle he was trying to put across with this quotation is that it's really important that you and I will invest quality time into planning, into finding out. There's this book that we read when I was in primary school, Look Beyond Before You Leap. Look beyond before you leap. And I believe I've shared this before, that I can't remember majority of the content of the book again now. However, at least for over 40 years now, what stays with me is the graphics on the cover of that book. And that was the picture of a fence with a boy wanting to jump over the fence. But on the other side of the fence was a puddle. So the whole essence of what the book was trying to say is, of course, because the guy that was trying to scale the fence to jump over it, he has not checked what's on the other side of the fence, then he will end up where? In a puddle. So it's really important that you and I, we don't just rush into things. Let us imbibe the attitude of carrying out due diligence. Planning. It's very important. So somebody will be looking at it, and when I was looking at this quotation, I'm thinking, wow, culture clash now, because there's this very popular saying in my own language, which demonstrates that there's no culture that is perfect. So there's this saying that, if it takes you 50 years or 100 years to prepare for I don't want to do a literal translation. It can sound offensive to certain people. But if it takes you that long to make a preparation for something, that when are you actually going to bring the thing to open display? But the time you spend in planning is never a waste. Of course, it is not supposed to now become an excuse to continue to analyze until paralysis sets in. No. But let's get the balance right. Let's do the right thing. Make adequate preparation. Okay? So, bottom-up research, which is the opposite of what the author says majority of people do. Now, with bottom-up research, it means you observe customers in action. You listen to what they say and get to know the problems they face and look for strong, unmet, and enduring needs. So you are not jumping to conclusion. You are not assuming what the need is to be met. You take your time to really take in the information. There was something that the author shared in the book about P&G, a company that makes a lot of household goods. And there was this research that he mentioned particularly in the book about a product that they have, which is but there are two products he mentioned today. One was a particular detergent, and that they carried out a survey to ask the customers if they are happy with the product. And this is a product that's been on the market for over 30 years. And the customers, through the survey, they said, fine, everything is okay, perfect, they are happy with it. But because they had that inquisitive mind, they felt, you know what, let's go the next step. They asked for permission from the customers that, look, we want to come to your house to observe how you use this product, without saying anything. The customers that gave them the permission, one of them has been using the product for years. In fact, he says she has been using the product for almost 30 years, for the whole time the product has been in existence. And what did she do? It was a detergent that goes into for washing, for the washing machine. And when it was time to pour it, because she took out a new one, she actually had to stab the product by the side in order to get the content out. And the researcher was looking totally confused that, wow. But this was the same customer that said they were happy with the product. They didn't have any complaint about it. But for as long as she has been using the product, she had to cut a hole by the side in order to pour the content. And that was what led to the creation of a liquid detergent by that company. and the liquid detergent now has gained widespread use. In fact, it has overtaken the market value for the original product. What's the whole essence of this? You are not making up the need. In fact, in this scenario, even the customer could not even picture or could not say exactly, they couldn't identify the need, what they needed. They just adjusted to what they had. No wonder Henry Ford said, if he has asked people what they wanted, Henry Ford was with the invention of motor vehicles, right? Ford cars. Well, I don't want to go into the details of that. People have said, oh, he didn't invent it, he invented it, he bought it off, whichever is the name we know. But he said, if I've asked people what they wanted, that people probably would have said they wanted faster horses, because as at that time, horses drawing the cart were all that people were used to. So if he had gone around to just ask the question, what do you guys need? Faster horses would have been most likely the most common response. But he did not. He saw the need, investigated the need, and what did he do? Provided a solution that was desirable, commensurate to the need of that moment. So with C, you are what? You look for strong, unmet, enduring needs. And the author broke those three things down under strong. Means the need must be powerful enough to motivate customers to seek out a solution. You want to be selling aspirins, not vitamins, right? Something really important that people need, not just a wishful thinking. Secondly, unmet. The need has to be unmet. You have to find needs which are not fully satisfied. Now, I love the fact that he qualified the definition of unmet as not fully satisfied, because, again, as I've said, all of us cannot be inventors, but we can innovate. So needs which are not fully satisfied. So there might be a solution in place for that need, but the truth is you can always extend that solution in order to what? To provide more value. To provide more value that solution is able to meet. So you need to be able to think, what if things were not this way, but were better? So how can it be better? Don't just settle down for the status quo. Don't just limit your thinking to say, oh, yeah, well, that's fine. It cannot be improved. No, there's nothing that cannot be improved. There's always room for improvement on this side of heaven. You thank God for what you have. You appreciate God for what provision is around, but seek, because that's the only way you can continue to expand your influence. You can become more and more relevant, more useful by not resting on your laurels. And the third one talks about the need being enduring, which is about you must be looking at long-term needs rather than a fad. There's no point developing a solution for something which will resolve itself. That's just a waste of your time. Okay, so those are the things that the author talked about. And lastly, on the issue of C, which is the first part, he says to do bottom-up research effectively, you need to be anthropological. What does this mean? That is, be empathetic and observe how people behave naturally rather than what they say. I gave you an example of a company that's done that successfully. And if you have been a fan or a viewer of all the what do you call it, David Attenborough's programs, then you will have more appreciation for this. That when he's trying to do a study, a research on any colony of any animal, of any whatever species, they go to their natural habitat, and the setup they employ in that place is to minimize disruption to the natural habitat of those animals, because it is when they are in their natural habitat that you can truly observe what their normal reaction will be. But there was one that I watched not so long ago, whereby to be able to study the dolphins, the is it lions, sea lions, and all those whatever, they had to make a model, remote control model, life size of that type of animal, right? And dip them into the water, but with cameras. But these cameras were hidden in such a subtle way. The texture, the look and feel of those, in fact, they made it that those models that they were using, they were, when the dolphins, yeah, it should be dolphins, when they jump out of water and flies back and all those somersaulting, they were doing that too. So if you are not, so that those things can move in the same company with the rest of the animal group, and they are not suspecting, because if it was a human being that goes there, then of course the animals will suspect this is not part of us. Their behavior will be different. They will adjust their behavior around a foreign object. But when in fact, one of it was such that another animal was actually sniffing around, wanting to play with that toy, that dummy piece, was trying to play with it, and the person that was giving the commentary was almost saying, wow, this may end up badly for this dummy, because if they try to play with it and it's not responding as it should, then that may let off the stealth, the hidden practice. They may tear the thing up. So all I'm saying is, when you are trying to see, when you are trying to look for that unmet need, you have to be anthropological, like the author says. Try to observe how people behave naturally. How do people react to the need in the natural? Not because a lot of times is what people say doesn't always or fully represent how they feel in reality. And sometimes it's not because they actually want to mislead you, it's just that there is that likelihood for disconnection between what people say and what they really truly feel. Okay, so but by observation you will be in a better position to know how they truly feel. Ask brief, open-ended questions, and then really listen to what people are saying. Never ask close-ended questions which can be answered with a yes or no. This precisely is what you are learning from this book is a doctorate training, which was one of the things that we were taught when you are doing a research. Don't ask close-ended questions, because that will leave you with very limited data to work with. Watch out for actual unmet needs that already exist, and resist the temptation to pitch or even ask for feedback on product ideas you are coming up with. And the last one says, look at the entire supply chain and any unmet needs which may exist at any touch point. Basically, don't be close-minded, be open-minded when it comes to trying to meet an unmet need. Okay, so let's move on to solve, conscious of our time. So once you have defined the problem you want to solve, you then pilot a solution on a small scale. Put another way, you develop a value proposition for a potential solution with clear benefits you can explain and communicate. You also need to deliver this benefit in a way which is dramatically and clearly different from others who promise the same. So value proposition is the focus here. And a statement Angus Kingon defined value proposition as a statement that ties the customer needs to benefit of using your product or service in economic terms. You and I must always, so what's a need? What's the benefit for the people? The service you are trying to render, how does it benefit the people? If it doesn't give a particular benefit for the people, so why should they part with their hard-earned cash or their resources in order to partake of what you are offering? So the author, Danny Walshe, says, note, the value proposition is built on the strong and enduring unmet needs you uncover in the first step. So there must be that connection between the value proposition you are building up and the unmet need that you've identified earlier on. So benefits are what you promise to deliver to customers to address their needs. If you can deliver those benefits in ways which are dramatically different from others who promise the same thing, you can enjoy significant economic needs. So you can begin to rake in a return. Why? Because you are promising, you are giving something that is meeting specific needs in the life of the people. Okay? So that's really important. The next slide. So to come up with a great value proposition, so if you want to come up with a great value proposition, the author says you need to be aware of these 8 things. The first thing is you must always be prepared to diverge before you converge. Again, it goes back to one of the last things I've said, which is don't approach a need or any situation with a closed mind. Always have an open mind. Be ready to explore, to consider the options before you zero down or you narrow down on what. That is what is called you are making an informed decision. The first option that always shows up or the first thing that creeps up is not necessarily the only solution. Think wide. Think outside the box. Then when you have explored all those options, you can now rein things in and narrow it down to what actually matters the most. Okay? So the second thing is be creative. Okay, create. Sorry, so that reads wrong from the author. So that needs to be create a portfolio of options. Create a portfolio of options. The third thing is that you need to be aware of it is generally easier to make an innovative idea visible. It's generally easier to make an innovative idea visible. So don't approach the situation with the mindset of it's not possible, the mindset of impossibility. Yes, you can see it as challenging, but the fact that it's challenging, it's supposed to motivate you to go for it, because the more challenging it is, the more rewarding it stands to be. Okay? So don't let the challenges you are facing to become a deterrent for you moving forward. Just this week, I was listening to a man of God, Bill Johnson, all these snippets, all these little recordings, that short recordings, I mean to say. And he was talking about, when Samson killed a lion, and I think after some days, in the carcass of that lion, he was able to find honey comb, which is amazing how that happened. But that's recorded somewhere in the Bible. So it was now said, if Samson had not killed that lion, if he had run away or he had avoided killing the lion, the honeycomb, the honey he actually needed, he would have missed out on it, because the honey he needed was inside what looked like an unsurmountable challenge. So it was encouraging that, look, a lot of us will run away from difficult, challenging situations. But what we don't know is that the reward we need actually lies behind or within us overcoming that challenge. So it is in the place of overcoming that challenge that we get rewarded. So we just want the reward, but when what encapsulates the reward doesn't look like the reward, we back off. But that's where the blessing, that's where the promise, that's where the promotion, the lifting, that's where it lies. So instead of always backing out of challenging things, have the mindset of, look, I'm going to conquer this, because it is the place of conquering that challenge that you get rewarded. Wow, when I listened to that, I'm like, wow, this is amazing. The fourth one quickly says, embrace crazy wild card, out of the box ideas. Again, don't limit your options. It may sound like, oh, it's a no-brainer now. It's not, that's never going to work. Consider it first. Consider it. Think of what if it works. Don't just get rid of ideas. Don't throw them away until you have considered it. Fifth one, beware of the forces that significantly inhibit entrepreneurship. There will always be, except if you are not trying to do something significant, that's when you will not find or come across a resistance. But as long as you are trying to make progress, which it's a basic teaching, even in is it physics now, you always have to overcome the force of inertia before you can make progress. And the force you need to apply to a static object must be greater than the force of inertia holding it down for that thing to move. Until the force you are applying to make it to move, until it overcome, it bypasses the quantity of that force holding it down, that thing is going to remain static. So the same thing applies to your life, to my life. So if we are going to move forward, then we need to apply more force than whatever it is that is holding us back. So you need to have more knowledge than the ignorance that is holding you back. You need to be ready to move forward. So you need to think expansively. You need to don't develop ideas you are not passionate about, because challenging this always lies ahead with being a solution provider. So if you are not passionate about it, you will easily give up. Make sure you plan on getting your hands dirty. So it's not just about giving commands, ordering people around. You must be ready to get your hands dirty. Okay? You must be ready to get to the work to move things forward. Steve Jobs, I'm sure we all still remember Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple. He said, your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. I'm sure, of course, he said this while he was still alive, and probably before he knew he will have cancer and die at the age he died. But how true is what he has said, that truly our times are limited. So be genuine, be original. Okay? There are several techniques which are helpful in developing value proposition, which answers the why, what, and who questions. What are those techniques? You need to be a geographical follower. And what that means is that you need to take the insight and success of the ventures, of other ventures that have addressed similar problems in other geographical areas. So don't limit your thinking. That's what this is saying. Don't be a local champion. Think wide. The second one, he says what? He says you have to use subtraction. And by using subtraction means you remove an essential component from an existing product or service to come up with a new beneficial uses. That's innovation. The other point is you have to use multiplication, which means the opposite of subtraction rather, and that means add something to an existing product or an existing service and see what it will be able to deliver at the end of the day. Apply division. Apply division means where you cut and rearrange components to form something new. It is all about what? About being imaginative, using your imagination. Don't settle for the norm, the way it has been, the way it is, the way it will be forever. There can be something new. Arrange some task unification. So this is where you give an existing component or a resource an additional task. Use it for a different purpose. You know, I know I can't dwell so much on anything now because of time, but in my line of work, when you make a product, there's always what is called the intended purpose, intended use. Okay, so which is what the MHRA, that's the competent authority in the UK, what they would approve your product to address. So if today you say your medication, for example, it treats a headache, you cannot just after some years say, by the way, I just realized that same product can actually treat tummy ache as well, and you just change it. No. Before you change it, you have to go through what is called another round of clinical research, do your clinical evaluation report, and justify why you think it can meet a different need too. Go through the approval process before. I know in some countries you have one product that meets or solves 1,000 problems. In my language, they say one product that solves 200 diseases. Awogbaru. God will help us. So change attribute dependencies, and that's like making a windshield wiper which automatically changes speed based on the rainfall. So depending on what the situation is, in what other way can existing solution be applicable. The third one, quickly, because we are really running out of time, is about creating a sustainable model. Scale is where you start thinking big. Once you have defined the problem you want to solve, which is say develop a robust and interesting value proposition that's solved, then you have to identify how to deliver the solution on a long-term and sustainable basis. So that's the next thing. Scale is where the rubber meets the road. You had another key question to the three that get asked in developing a value proposition. So you are asking the question why, which is what are the benefits. You are saying what, the features, what should it look like. Who is your target audience, who is your target customer. These are things that you and I will need to know, we need to think about. Then how will the service or the product be delivered? So what's the means of delivery? All those points are really, really crucial. So how are you going to execute? How will you fulfill your promise to deliver value to customers in a way that is replicable and scalable over the long time? Strange as it may sound, this is an area where having scarce resources rather than abundant resources is useful. Limited resources will force you to experiment inexpensively, to fail fast and to fail cheap. to pivot quickly, and to come up with something sustainable and smart. As you develop your sustainable model, think big. Also, you want to change the world, not just make a living. Your mentality. Don't think small, think big. To come up with a great sustainability model, keep in mind the following suggestions. 1. Be prepared to think backwards. That's the first thing. Yeah. So this means you identify the impact you aspire to have 20 years from now, and then envision what kind of proposition and business model will get you there. Look backwards to clarify what needs to happen today to start moving in the right direction. The second thing is to look for ways to fail fast and fail cheap. The third one is you need to clarify what you want, what exactly you have an unfair competitive advantage, where exactly you have an unfair competitive advantage. So this is where you can apply core assets in ways in which are demonstrably better, right? And the last point is you need to do well by doing good. Do things which will be good for the world. So these are all the things that you and I we need to be aware of. My encouragement for you is to come back to this teaching. I know I've rushed some bits, but at least the good thing is you have the slides. You can come back to read them and properly digest all those points. Think carefully about how the problem you are solving may evolve in the future. So make your solution future-proof. So don't get caught in the fact or base your execution system on today's limit. Think ahead. Work to build a great brand because they are like magic. When customers trust you to provide a great value, you can scale much faster, right? So, and in scaling faster, you always have to go for diversity. Welcome some creative abrasion. Be wary about bringing in family or friends. Make sure you create a dynamic, not static ownership split. And the last bit are the thoughts that you and I will need to be aware of. And I will only pick about 2 of these thoughts. Okay? It says, in the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, but in the experts, there are few possibilities. Colin Powell, a former U.S. Secretary of Defense, he said, all the great ideas and visions in the world are worthless if they can't be implemented. So don't just think of great ideas, think of how they will be implemented. Mark Twain says, it ain't what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so. You know, American. What you know, but you have known wrongly. That's what will get you into trouble. Henry Ford, I said this earlier on. He said if you asked people what they wanted, people would have said they want faster horses. I hope this has been a blessing to you. I've really enjoyed this book because it's really challenging. It challenges your thinking. It makes you to think outside of the box, truly. Please come back and review this so you can play it again, break it down, and be able to fully digest what the author had put together in the book, See, Solve, Scale. Thank you for joining me tonight. Tomorrow, by God's grace, 12 to 2, we have evangelism in church. So please be part of what God is doing in our midst. Let's go to our word and preach our Lord to our word. Then on Sunday, we meet in church, 11 to 1, 6 Union Street, LU1 3AN, Luton. God bless you. The Lord bless you. The Lord keep you. The Lord will make his face to shine upon you. The God of heaven will lift up his countenance upon you and grant you peace in all your ways. Have a fruitful weekend. God bless you. Enjoy your weekend. Bye.